In this video, I'm going to be looking at the song Blues Run the Game by Jackson C. Frank. This is a great song, it's quite beginner friendly, and for me this is just one of these essential must-know bits of fingerstyle repertoire. And if you're a beginner, you can't go too far wrong by learning this song, and even if you're a more advanced player, it's just a great song to know, I think. So I'm going to begin by playing through a little bit of the tune, then we'll talk about it. Catch a boat to England, baby, maybe to Spain. Wherever I have gone, wherever I've been or gone, wherever I have gone, the blues are all the same. Send out for whiskey, baby, send out for gin. Me and room service, baby, me and room service, babe, me and room service, well, we're living a life of sin. So there we are, this tune recorded in 1965 and part of Jackson C. Frank's debut album, in fact his only album. Actually a bit of a sad story what happened to him subsequently, and you can read about that online. And Jackson C. Frank, he was an American, but as the lyrics of the song go, he caught a boat to England and became quite a big part of the 60s folk scene in London. And he was a very influential figure, and I think that's evidenced by the fact that a lot of great people have covered this tune, including Bert Jansch, Nick Drake, Laura Marling's done a very nice version of it a bit more recently. And for me, the Nick Drake recording in particular is really interesting, and it's taken from the Family Tree record, which I think is a collection of basically home recordings. And obviously Jackson C. Frank was an important figure to Nick Drake when he was first getting into playing guitar and writing songs, and I think he recorded 3 or 4 Jackson C. Frank covers on that album, and that's well worth checking out if you don't already know it. But anyway, let's get down to business and I'll show you how to play this song. I should start by saying that I don't play this exactly the way Jackson C. Frank plays it, and I'm trying to stay fairly faithful to that original recording in this video. But if you listen to the original recording, there are 6, 7 verses, all of them quite different. So he's obviously just kind of feeling his way through it and improvising a little bit within the structure of the song. So I recommend you do the same thing. I'll take you through the basic chords and some of the basic ideas that are going on. Then I think it's best if you do it your own kind of way. But having said that, I think it might be worth just learning the introduction more or less note for note from the recording, and then from that point onwards maybe you can be a little bit more free with it. So let's kick off with that. So I've got a capo on here at the 5th fret. I think that's where it is on the recording. It's not quite to concert pitch, but I think the 5th fret sounds good. Of course, if you're playing it yourself, you feel free to put the capo where you want. You can kind of move it around until you like the sound, and particularly if you're singing along, you want the pitch of the tune to suit the range of your voice. So I've got capo at the 5th fret here, and I'm going to talk about this tune as being in the key of G. It kind of all revolves around G and C chord shapes, though of course with the capo the actual key is going to be different. We're going to be in C. So most of this tune revolves around 2 simple chord shapes. We've got a G chord and we've got kind of a variation on a C chord. Now the G chord is mostly played like this, and I've got the 3rd fret on the low E, 3rd fret on the high E, so it's kind of a 2-finger G. It is important that you use your little finger on that high note because you want to leave your other fingers free for doing other stuff. So that's our G chord. And then what we're doing is we're just putting down fingers 1 and 2 at the 1st fret on the B and the 2nd fret on the D, and you get this kind of sound. I'm thinking of this as it's like a C chord, but you've got a G in the bass, so C over G. And most of the tune, as I say, was going between that G and that C over G. And the introduction starts with just a bar of G, bar of C over G, and it goes something like this. So we're just establishing that fingerstyle pattern in the first bar. it's an alternating bass kind of fingerstyle piece this, so the thumb is for the most part just going to be rocking back and forth between the bass note and then a higher note. In this case we're going from the 6th string to the 4th string, and then we're filling in some of the higher notes with the fingers. I'm not going to take you through every single fingerstyle pattern in this piece. It's all very common stuff, and if this is completely new to you, then I strongly recommend you check out the recent video I did on essential fingerstyle patterns. I think that will really set you up well for tackling a song such as this one, because it uses exactly those patterns. So first bar is this, and then we're hammering into that C over G shape, and then we're back to the G again. Just got a little hammer on in that G shape, using the little finger to hammer on from the open 2nd string to the 3rd fret. Quite tricky there to get power in your pinky at that point. Then we're back to the C over G again, and then we've got this interesting chord. So this is just like the C over G, but we're moving our 2nd finger over to the 3rd string. So get that lovely sound. Then we're going to the G and then to the C over G again. And then the last 2 bars of the introduction. So it's just G, hammering down those 2 fingers and then back again. So that's as close as I can get to note for note what's going on in the introduction. Let me just play that slowly for you. Nothing too complicated. The main thing is just to keep that thumb rocking back and forth between the 2 bass notes, and then the fingers kind of just do their thing on top of that. Let's get into the first verse then, and there's lots of very similar stuff going on, and I'm going to try and describe this in a reasonable amount of detail, but if I'm going too quickly for you, or if there's not enough detail there, then there will be my tab, which is going to be up on my Patreon page. You can pay what you like, and that can often be very helpful to look at that while you're learning a piece such as this one. So the verse kicks off with some more G chord stuff, and then to the C over G, and then just lifting off those 2 fingers to go back to G again. And then we carry on with some more G, C over G, next bar back to G, it's essentially the same as the first 2 bars, and next bit there's a bit of a variation. This is wherever I've been and gone. That little bit there, so wherever I've been and gone. So we're starting off on G, and then we've got this. Playing kind of partial chords here, I think. So it's like a C, but I'm not holding down the note on the 4th string. I've got this kind of sound. So it's a little kind of walk down from this C to a B, or the 3rd fret to the 2nd fret. So and then we're back to G, and the same thing. The kind of the refrain, the blues are all the same bit. Kind of going to a D chord here. And in fact I'm actually hearing an open 2nd string in there, at least the first time, so it's I suppose more of a D6 kind of a sound. And then we're back to the C over G. And then back to G. That's the basic verse. Let me play that for you slowly. Then we've got a little interlude, a kind of re-intro before we go into the second verse. And this is, again, where you hear lots of different variations. It's slightly different each time. So the first little interlude goes something like this. And it starts exactly the same as the intro proper to the tune. So... I think that's exactly the same as the first 4 bars of the piece. Then we've just got this. So it's like that C over G, but you're just lifting up your first finger. And then we're into the next verse. So that's pretty much it. As I said, there are lots of little variations, and you've got 7 or 8 verses, all with subtle differences between each of the verses. So it would be incredibly boring if I were to go through all of those verses just for the sake of pointing out a few of those variations. I will write out 2 or 3 choruses of it in my tab, but I think by far the best thing you can do is actually listen to the recording, and if there are some little variations that particularly grab you, then you can go in and learn those and get them into your rendition of the tune. But as I said, that's pretty much it. These are all the basic things that are going on. And what I suggest you do is get comfortable with these basics and then get to work on making it your own. Let me tell you a bit about the gear that I'm using today. The guitar is a Martin 0015M, and the M stands for mahogany, so it's a mahogany top, back, sides, everything else as far as I know. And the 00 is the size of the guitar. I think Martin and some other acoustic guitar manufacturers indicate the size of their guitars with O, 00, 000, OM, etc. And the 00 is just quite a small body size. Works particularly well, I think, for fingerstyle guitar. It's got a nice balanced tone, and the bass isn't too woolly or overwhelming, and it records nicely too. And that's about it. What else? I've got a capo, which is just a Shub capo, just what I've always used, always seems to work. And yeah, the strings on this guitar are quite played in. I'm not a fan of bright, zingy, shiny new strings on acoustic guitars, so these are pretty decently played in. They're almost starting to get a bit dead, and I just prefer that sound. I think it records nicely, and I just prefer that overall vibe on acoustic guitars. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. As usual, the tab is going to be up on my Patreon page, so check that out if you're interested. And there are plenty more fingerstyle pieces on my channel, so do check those out as well. I should probably put together a little playlist or something of all the fingerstyle stuff that I've done, so I'll try and get that together. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.